Hey, we are back. We are the Wrestling Boys. I am Logan.
I'm Goose.
And we are here to give our review of both Raw 30
Yep.
and the Royal Rumble.
Yep. But first, let's talk about something we're a little late with, and that is the passing of
Jay Briscoe.
Jay Briscoe, also known as Jamin Pugh. And I remember when you told me about it last week that he had perished in a car crash. I was just
Shocked.
I was shocked. I was kind of taken aback. Because this is a member of probably one of the best tag teams in wrestling. They've been together for at least a couple decades.
I think they've been with Ring of Honor, I think, since the company begun back in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And I remember when we, just a few years ago, when we had another studio, we were talking about who is the best tag team around, and it was like our argument was there are so many of them that it's kind of hard to pick one
narrow it down.
Back then, you had
you had the New Day, the Revival, the War Raiders, the Briscoes,
Evo and Sonata, the Bucks. I mean, you had so many great tag teams at that time. Even like the Fashion Police were like
were an underrated one, even though they were mostly a comedy
team. But it was like it was just kind of devastating to see. Just to see that he'd passed away
in such tragic circumstances, because I think they were on the way back from their daughter's cheerleading practice, and I think hit by a drunk driver. Or?
I think so. Yeah. Apparently, I guess she had gone into his lane and hit him head on, and I mean, it's just.
And yes, both Jay and his wife died in the accident, but luckily their daughter has survived and is on the recovery. So,
but it's just it's just one of those things where it's like you hear the news of a wrestler passing away, and of course, what's the most common thing we think of when a wrestler passes away? It's like usually, drugs or usually they're older. It's an older wrestler, what do you call it? A classic veteran Hall of Famer that passes away, but nothing like something like this where
they were still in their prime.
I mean, it just brings back memories of Brody Lee, who was again on top of his game, but I mean, and I think the sad part is I think it's because Ring of Honor was one of those. I don't want to say B companies. I mean, it was a lot of great wrestlers. A lot of great companies. A lot of great wrestlers came out of that company.
I wouldn't say they're a B company, but they're not like. They were a big company, but they never were as popular. I think just because they didn't have the TV presence that companies like WWE, AEW, or even Impact had. So I'd say Ring of Honor was, I guess, how would you describe it? Like one step below the Major League, I guess.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the Briscoes never wavered in leaving Ring of Honor. They had always stayed there. I think at one point they were their tag champs for a long time.
I'm not sure
multiple
how long.
times. It's just and if you've ever seen them, I think we had a chance to see them at least 2 or 3 times, and they were just amazing. They put a lot of other tag teams to shame and how good they were, and their personas in the ring. Which brings up something else, because somebody had asked me about all the stuff that apparently I guess Jay Briscoe was, I guess, kind of like a guy on Twitter who basically spoke his mind and people didn't like it.
And apparently like a long time ago, something like 10 years ago, he had made this homophobic remark, and even though he had apologized for it later on after his passing, people on Twitter were like, believe people are saying rest in power about a homophobic white wrestler. Even though
Which-
people in the know, which I'm sure 99% of the people who are whining about using rest in power about a white guy had no clue who Jay Briscoe was.
Yeah.
But
The interesting part was Jay Briscoe wasn't the white guy.
mhm.
Apparently he
they
was
actually have Native American.
Native American.
heritage.
He had Native American bloodline in him, and so he could be considered a person of color.
Mhm.
And so, which kind of fits with the rest in power
Mhm.
kind of thing. But here it is. It's like you know, to, and I remember Simon Miller was talking about this in his tribute last week about it, and he was like, he says, look, he's older now, he's moved on, he's apologized for it. We need to allow forgiveness and redemption in people. We can't allow this kind of stuff to just fester.
Brand them for life.
Brand them for life. I mean, especially if it's something that was tweeted 10 years ago. I mean, I'm sure if any of you out there can pull up your old tweets from 10 years ago, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Oh, people, and I think what else disgusts me is the fact that by people saying rest in power, and there are those who came on Twitter and say that you can't say that, you can only say that to a black guy. And it's like, really? Man,
At this time, man just passed
Passed.
the most tragic of circumstances, and this is what you decide to
yeah,
go on about?
you're going to make it a political thing now? A man just died. And you're going to make this a political thing? Yeah, rest in power. I hope he does rest in power. I hope
Just to spite all the people that
yeah.
were getting their panties in a bunch over it.
But I don't know. The big question is like, where are the Briscoes going to go from here? What is it, Mark?
Mark Briscoe?
Mark Briscoe. Where's he going to go from here? Is he going to team up with, like Jay Lethal? They had a big tag match to commemorate
Commemorate Jay.
Jay. And so, is he going to team up with someone, or is he going to start a solo career, or what's he going to do? It's kind of, it's almost like, the best way I can equate it is like if Jay Uso died,
It's
or
like, what does Jimmy do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these people have been inseparable their entire careers.
entire careers.
So I'm sure he could go on to a singles career. I
Yeah.
know Jay had a singles career, so I don't see why Mark couldn't, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he did form another tag team with Jay Lethal, as you said, or I guess whatever he decides to do, we'll just
Yeah.
have to wait and see.
If you have a chance to see any of the Briscoes matches, I think the best place you can probably find them is on Daily Motion.
I think so. It's kind of hard to find, as we said, Ring of Honor
Yeah.
stuff, but I think they had their tribute show still up on YouTube, which
Yeah.
I think was like career highlights. And I'm sure if you look hard enough, you can find stuff on YouTube or Daily Motion. Like I really wanted to find their series they had with the Revival this past year, and I'm having a hard time finding it.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where we just looking back and you're realizing that the wrestling world lost a great man, someone. Again, I remember Simon Miller was saying that Jay Briscoe was so personable and would joke around, and when Simon Miller was this, and if you know who Simon Miller is, just go to What Culture Wrestling.
He does all the ups and downs.
The bald guy.
Yeah.
He's the one that slaps the top of his head. But he was when Simon Miller was talking about how he just broke into the wrestling thing and he didn't know anything about it. He knew a little bit about it, and he was sitting there interviewing the Briscoes, and they were just joking with him and playing games and tricks on him and stuff like that, and just making him a part of the wrestling world. And Simon Miller was like, you really appreciate someone who is so accepting to be able to do that. Even Simon Miller was like, we're not going to talk about the Twitter stuff because it's just
Shameful.
It's just shameful because he was like, you got to allow somebody to be able to
Just have
to
some
grow.
respect.
So yeah, that's all we ask.
Have some compassion. Have some respect. But then again, we're talking about Twitter, and
Twitter is
sadly, that's a foreign concept to most on there.
yeah, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We're going to take an early break from here because we got two huge
things to talk about.
segments coming up as far as Raw 30 and Royal Rumble, and so we're gonna get back to you on the other side of this break.
I am Goose. I am Logan. We are travel by nature.
That being said, I'm Goose.
I am Logan.
This is Travel by Nature. Thank you for watching.
Tired, I am sore, and I just want to go to bed.
And you can do that after you take a shower.
I can take a shower in the morning.
No, you can take one now.
I don't even smell that bad.
Oh, really? You smell like a combination of body odor and butt crack, and I'm not sleeping next to that. Laid too every once in a while.
As tempting as all that sounds, I'd rather go to bed. Honey, what's wrong? Half the crew is at the bar. At least I'm here.
That's just it. Even when you're here, you're not. You're either too tired or too preoccupied.
We are back. We are the Wrestling Boys. I'm Logan.
I'm Goose.
And we are here to give our review of Raw 30.
Yeah, let's be honest. We saw the replay on Hulu, which is an hour and a half.
Yeah, so we didn't see everything
Every
they
match,
had, but
no.
we saw a lot of the what was being talked about, like
I don't-
Undertaker returning as the American Badass, and
Yeah,
DX, and
I don't know how they determined what to show for that hour and a half.
I don't know either, but
But obviously, a lot of the mid card matches kind of get tossed out. But it was really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you open the show with Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. You're like, yeah. And then you get you get the American Badass Undertaker, who comes in and basically disrupts LA Knight, and then we get the
Fiend.
it
Or no, it wasn't the Fiend. It was Bray Wyatt.
By the way, you know that Bray Wyatt has now said that the Fiend is dead.
Really?
Yeah, he's not coming back as a Fiend. The Fiend is dead. So, but then, well, I mean, we'll see how long that lasts because that was one of his most popular characters. And
I think they'll probably still keep with the dual personality type deal they had with Bray Wyatt. Maybe just not have like the whole Fiend get up, I guess.
More on that in our next segment when we talk about
Royal Rumble.
But yeah, it was super entertaining. We got to see DX come back, minus Billy Gunn.
Yeah, it was really funny what they did with that because I think it's just because Billy Gunn, I think, has a contract with AEW at the moment. So they had DX come out, and Road Dogg was doing this whole thing. The 6-time tag team champions of the world. Road Dogg, Jesse James, and
there's Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle standing there.
And for the longest time, we were like, well, why is Kurt Angle out there? Kurt Angle's never part of DX. But regardless, it was still fun to see Kurt Angle.
It was a good little segment. And then we got to see Imperium come out and basically tell
so, you disrespect the ring. We hold the mat sacred.
So, you know, it's kind of funny. It's just, but, you know, and of course DX does what DX does best, which is everything's
we got
funny.
2 words for you.
Suck it! But they made the whole thing into like a nice little comedy bit. Obviously, you know, Hunter was like, "No, I'm retired." You know?
Yeah, that was funny when they were like, "We're gonna set up a 6-man tag team match," but all of them were like, "I'm good. I'm retired."
Yeah. Shawn Michaels, I'm too old.
Yeah.
You know, what was it? The Road Dogg comes up and goes, "I'm going to tell you, who am I kidding?"
Yeah.
And then they huddle, they come back and they say, "Oh, Kurt will do it." And Kurt's like, "No, I won't." No, I won't. But it was like one of those things where it's like one of those impromptu. It's like the whole thing was a setup. You knew it was a setup, you know, because it was like, who's could come out here and challenge? And all of a sudden out comes Seth Rollins, which is really cool because Seth Rollins has not gotten his spot in his career where he can play either the face or the heel. It's like, depending on who he's facing, he's either the face or the heel. It doesn't matter, but he's the same character. You know, he's Seth freaking Rollins. And so it was pretty cool. And then, of course, who's going to join Seth? And then out come the Street Profits. And we're like, oh, this ought to be good. But you know, one of the things we've always have said is that, you know, WWE loves to be able to put teams together that have never worked together.
And speaking of the tag team match, we also got an appearance from who is the master of making tag team matches.
Oh, Teddy Long.
Teddy
Teddy Long.
Oh boy, it was like everybody saw it was coming. It's like Teddy Long comes out, boom, baby, we're getting a 6-man tag team match.
Who can put this together? Let me tell you, player.
Only thing that would have made that better, I was expecting him to do his whole, you will go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker.
With the Undertaker.
But of course, it didn't happen.
We got the 6-tag.
It was still nice seeing.
It was good.
And
it was a nice little setup because obviously Raw 30 was the setup toward
the Royal Rumble.
To the Royal Rumble. I mean, the night, and I think the night opened with, didn't the night open with Sami Zayn?
I think so.
You know, facing the bloodline. I mean, it's kind of crazy that, you know, they set this whole thing up for Royal Rumble where it's like Sami Zayn comes out and he's the Inquisition and.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You were talking about they're basically having like a mock trial.
Mock trial, Sami, you know, and
put their evidence on the Titantron.
Paul Heyman puts his evidence on the Titantron, and then just you know, they ask Sami, he's like, I got no defense. It's like if you don't think I'm part of this, I got no defense. And Roman was like pissed off. He's like, you got no defense for this Solo. You know, Solo's gonna give him the thumb, which, you know, and Jey Uso comes over and stops him. He just shows his evidence for the defense and keeps Sami Zayn, you know, for now. But he's like, I don't want to see you to the Royal Rumble. And he's like, okay. Which we're all like, okay. We know exactly what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. Someone's turning on somebody. But again, we'll talk more.
So more
about
on that later.
Later.
'Cause that was
that was just
incredible.
an incredible ending to the Royal Rumble. But yeah, it was just everything just really worked when they brought Hogan back, the Undertaker, DX, all these huge stars that made Raw. I think huge. I think the only ones that worked there was like Steve Austin, and of course The Rock wasn't there. I wonder
why they wouldn't have Steve Austin. Unless he was busy doing something else,
Yeah.
I guess. But and another thing is this was also very much a nostalgia show. Well, it's because it's like 30 years doing the same show. You got to have the big names.
30.
And I remember they also did one a few years back when they were doing Raw 25
Yeah.
back in 2018. And the difference between the two shows was Raw 30 was much better. I think it was
better.
much where it was like a nice mix of you have both wrestling and nostalgia rather than it's like, it was 100% like such and such returns,
It makes me believe that, and of course, one of the things we talked about in a previous episode was that Vince is back. He's now he's now back on the board. Stephanie left, which I think that whole thing was a work.
Really?
I think that whole thing was. I think they basically told Vince, "You're going to take some time off to deal with your personal issues, and Stephanie's going to come in, and then we'll just bring you back, and Stephanie will like get her her future endeavors papers, and basically say, I'm going to go focus more with my family," which is like, okay.
So you don't think Stephanie's actually left?
Not entirely, but I do believe that Triple H is still in charge of creative.
Okay.
I think he's still in charge of creative.
It makes sense because
still in charge
with
of booking.
Vince returning, it hasn't returned to Vince quality.
No,
At least just yet.
No. I mean, that was the one thing we were like
dreading.
worried about was that Vince would come back and it would be the same old garbage that we've had in the past where, and I think that someone pulled Vince aside and basically said, hey, this is working. You need to just let us be and let us keep doing this. Which is a good thing because a lot of the stuff that Vince was doing as far as creatively was
Crap.
It was really bad.
I still remember a few years ago, I think it was after Dean Ambrose had left after his...
Yep.
It was that stupid storyline where it was like he was coming out with that
The
aviator
gas
jacket and the
mask.
gas mask and the siren horn. Says, "Audience thinks you give me germs," or whatever he was doing. And then they had that stupid segment where it's like, "I gotta get a rabies shot to protect myself," which doesn't make any sense because
zero sense. Yeah. But
and then he was talking about because this is all Vince's stupid ideas.
Even
to quote, it's like Vince says, "This is such good shit."
Yeah. I mean, even Triple H came out when he was there, part of DX. He goes, "Hey, this booking stuff is hard," So, but I think Triple H, he pretty much learned everything when he was running NXT, and so to go up to Raw and SmackDown, despite what is going on with Vince, and I think, to tell you the truth, I don't think this is a good look for the WWE to have Vince back.
No,
I really don't
at all. Because it's just going to be like, it's just going to get out that WWE doesn't take sexual assault allegations seriously.
Yeah.
Or if you're part of WWE and you get accused of sexual assault, you're not going to lose your job. They're just going to let you go until it dies down, and then come back.
Come on back. I mean, it is true that Vince owns the majority. He's the majority of WWE. People are saying it's proper that if he's the owner, he should be on the chair. He should be on the board. He should be the chairman. But I think that something is. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping that somebody took him aside and says, "We bring you back. You cannot." And who knows? Maybe he's not in the back. Maybe that's like one of the conditions of him being there back on the board is that he can't be in the back at the shows.
So they didn't bring him back in any.
No, we didn't see Vince on Raw
real powerful capacity. I guess.
Let me ask you this though, because there was one thing that I kind of surprised us. when we were like gearing up for Raw 30, and that is the big old sign that said Raw is XXX.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that, and I was quite confused. I was like, I knew this Raw was going to be a bit different, but not that different. You see, Raw is XXX, and it's like, boy, howdy, we're going back to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, we're doing a live sex show again. I mean, it's just, we're like, what are they doing? I mean, this.
Don't get me wrong. I know XXX also means 30, but we all know it also means something else.
I don't know how in the world that got by everybody. Yeah, I'm sure somebody in marketing was like, yeah, this worked. This looks great. I was like, do you not understand what this looks like? We're sitting there going,
This Monday we're getting a different kind of Raw.
I mean, it was just kind of, it was baffling. We were sitting there, we were laughing. We're like, oh my gosh, that is like the worst sign ever. But I think the idea, of course, was, obviously they couldn't put the big old 30 on there, the big old number 30, because it would have looked kind of awkward. But the XXX looked even kind of goofier, more awkward, because it just screams out, porn. We're like, what kind of Raw are we gonna get? Maybe, and who knows? Maybe that was Vince's idea, and he was thinking we'll get a lot of viewers coming in for this one.
It does sound like a Vince idea.
I mean, but anyway, overall it was a good show. Again, we only got to see
about half of it because we saw the version
Raw,
on Hulu.
Yeah, the Raw replay on Hulu. Which brings up, I mean, I don't know why in the world they wouldn't put the full show.
I don't know, especially considering it's not just your regular episode of Raw. This is a big deal,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but it's...
But even from what we saw, it was still really, really
It was really, really good. I think we just kind of... I think what they do is they cut out some of the mid-card...
filler, the backstage segments,
stuff.
mid-card matches.
Yep. But it was overall a good show. Kind of looking forward to
Raw 40.
Raw XV.
Raw 35.
Raw 35 is coming up pretty soon, and who knows? Maybe they'll wheel Vince McMahon out there in a wheelchair and just say, "Hey, welcome to Raw is 35." You might need my pills. Anyway, so we're gonna go to a break here. When we come back, our longest segment will probably be this last one, which is
We're
be
talking
about
the Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, man. How's it going, man? Hey, sorry I missed the funeral. I couldn't miss work.
That's alright, I need your help with something.
So what's with the trunk?
Ooh!
I can't believe she gave you the house. I did everything for her. Cooked, cleaned.
And robbed her blind.
I only took what I deserved. She owed it to me.
So why did you call me? I need your help to get rid of it. What makes you think I can help?
Grandma was a wonderful person. She used to always tell me, Ellen, all you have is your name, so make it a good one.
What is that?
What does it look like?
I don't know. I've never seen it before.
Well, maybe we could burn it. No, and then the fire department will be here in minutes.
I don't know what all the fuss is about. That woman wasn't that pure.
Remember what she told us, Gary. All you have is your name.
rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every card by heart. Oh, the curtain lights. This is it. We'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show. This is it.
Hey, we're back. We are the Wrestling Boys. I am Logan.
Goose.
And we are here to give our review of the Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble. This was a good Rumble.
Yes, it was.
This was a good Rumble.
Again, there was some disappointing things, like mostly Sami Zayn not being in the Royal Rumble match.
Yeah.
I mean, if you recall from our last show where we gave our predictions for the Royal Rumble,
I thought
we were high on Sami Zayn
yeah.
winning the Rumble, and he wasn't even in it.
But I mean,
what made it worse is that getting down to like just the last few entrants, we were like, okay, we got to get Cody and Sammy, but then it's like number 29, who enters but
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
While no hate to Logan Paul for being in the Rumble, I mean, he had that incredible spot with Ricochet. That was that
was insane.
Definitely a holy shit moment if there ever was one.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Still, it reminds me of like I think it was the 2014 Rumble when it was like number 30 was Rey Mysterio, and even though nobody hates Rey Mysterio, I mean, how could you? But it's just the fact Daniel Bryan wasn't in the match.
Yep.
Same thing here. The only reason I don't like Logan Paul was in it is because it wasn't Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. It was kind of the interesting part was they started out with the men's 30-man Rumble,
which I kind of appreciated because I got to see most of the Royal Rumble match before I had to go to work.
Yeah, that's true. He had to work like right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I got to see up till like
when Cody Rhodes
till Cody Rhodes entered. So I didn't get to see the last of the match. I had to watch that the day after, but it was still nice opening the show with it.
Some things that were really, really interesting. One was they pretty much stuck to the roster.
Mm-hmm. There was a surprise. There was like no returns.
No big returns. None.
I mean, of course, there were some where it was like, oh, such and such has been out of action for a few months. So it was like, I guess, small returns, but nobody like coming back from their time in another company, or no Forbidden Door entrance, no Legends.
Well, no, there was one
save for Booker T.
Booker
T did enter.
He was the only legend that entered. He was a little rusty,
but then again, he hasn't been a full-time wrestler for years. So.
For years, we still got a book.
Spinaroonie.
We still got a Spinaroonie, and we got a book.
It was funny. Exactly, what they did here was, I think, the exact same thing that happened in like, was it the 2002 Rumble where he does his shtick, does a Spinaroonie, and immediately gets eliminated.
Right.
So,
but they pretty much stuck to the roster, which I'm not disappointed at. I mean, we didn't. I thought for sure the Big E would be back, but he wasn't.
That was another one I was expecting to see towards the end. But.
Which only means that he's not medically cleared yet. And let's all be honest. When you get dropped on your head and you break your neck and you almost die, I think it's going to take a while for you to kind of. Like,
I know what they're going to do for Big E's return.
What are they going to do?
Raw after WrestleMania, show starts. Oh, something wherever city they're doing. Don't you dare. That's going to get huge pop. I'm calling it. Even if he's cleared beforehand, that is when you bring him back.
Most likely. But the men's Rumble match lasted for, I think, almost close to
let me see. I
think
had the card open on here.
It was really well done. Of course, my original...
Yeah, it was an hour and like 11 minutes.
My original pick to win the Rumble, Cody Rhodes, won the Rumble.
Did win.
Which I think...
He was the obvious choice. They'd been setting that up for God knows how long. So, no surprise. Cody enters number 30 and eventually wins the match.
Right.
But one thing I really want to talk about is Gunther. Enters number 1. And is elimination 29.
Yep.
Lasted the entire match.
Yep.
And it was an interesting thing they did this year. It was a very good year for number 1 entrance because, as we just said, Gunther lasted the entire match. And they've got to be setting him up for like a world title run sometime soon. Because you don't just have a wrestler last the entire Royal Rumble without setting him up for I don't know, grander heights.
Yeah.
And then in the women's, which happened later on in the show, Rhea Ripley entered number 1.
Yep.
And won the match.
She won the match. As a matter of fact, Liv Morgan, who was number 2, she lasted the entire. In fact, she was number 29 to get eliminated. We'll talk more about that because I want to kind of like do this in order. But yeah, you're right. It was a really good day for number 1 entrance in the Rumble. And I kept saying the entire time, I said, they're trying to showcase Gunther because I think you were right. I think they want to put him on a run. He's the current Intercontinental Champion.
How long has he been Intercontinental Champion? He's had that title for months.
For quite a while.
Check real quick.
And so
Gunther, where is he?
But overall, the men's Rumble was really good. Like I said, I mean, Booker T was in there, I think, all of about 20, 25 seconds and was promptly dispatched. So he was your legend. And I think that was pretty interesting. But, I mean, there are a lot of rumors flying around for the Rumble. I mean, some people said The Rock was going to make a return. Didn't see it. I was one of those people that said The Rock's not coming. I said The Rock is not going to make a
appearance. I didn't really think so either. And just to clarify what I was just asking about how long Gunther has been Intercontinental Champion, it's been just under 8 months.
8 months. Which is a good run.
Going back to The Rock, I didn't really expect him to come back.
No.
But then again, I wouldn't have been surprised if all of a sudden we heard, you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that.
And I think people are also setting this up, like, people are so high on The Rock returning. I personally don't get it. Like, we're going to get, like, Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania now.
Yeah,
something like that. Which,
we're not
going to happen. We already got 2 things set up.
That's a WWE 2K event. That's the only place where that's going to happen, The Rock versus Roman. Because I don't see Dwayne leaving his Hollywood, his Hollywood lifestyle right now to come and spend 3 or 4 months.
I don't even think he would.
WWE.
He would come back for that long. I think most he would do is like a one-off appearance, which is what most legends do.
Yeah, but didn't see Riddle, so Riddle's still out. On his what does they call it now? His medical. What was it? It wasn't that he wasn't medically cleared. He was like suspended for. The words escape me, but apparently he didn't pass the drug test.
Okay. So for a wellness policy violation.
Yep, wellness policy violation. He's still out. But it was refreshing to see the men's Rumble open the show, and of course, it was.
One of my favorite moments in the match was, I think it was something like number 14. Brock Lesnar entered the match, and of course, due to Rumble's past, we're all dreading this because he usually comes in and eliminates like 10 people.
He was like 12 or 13 or 14, somewhere in there.
Somewhere around that, but he gets in there and surprisingly only got like 1 or 2 eliminations.
He got 3, I think. Before
being knocked out by Bobby Lashley.
And they have a great rivalry brewing.
That's another thing I believe they're setting up for WrestleMania is Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. And oh my God, I screamed so loud when Brock Lesnar was eliminated.
Everybody screamed.
I was like, yes!
Everybody. Matter of fact, it was funny. It was Brock tore up the place after he got eliminated. It was like
he was beating up the other entrance and all that.
Baron Corbin comes out there before Baron can even get in the ring. F5 on the floor, bang. And of course,
and I think Baron entered the match and was like promptly eliminated within like 30 seconds
because he got F5'd outside the ring, and then he got picked up and thrown in the ring, and everybody's like, there you go. But which, interestingly enough, I mean, from what I hear, Baron Corbin is that kind of guy who doesn't mind, something like that happening.
Doesn't mind being the quick elimination.
No, he doesn't mind. He's he's. From what I hear, he's a really, really cool dude. But yeah, it was no surprise when Cody Rhodes was announced the winner and or had won, and we were like, yeah, this is they've been trying to set this up for WrestleMania, and because they what they really want is Cody versus Roman for the titles. So, but
next match they had on the card after the men's Rumble.
It was the Pitch Black match.
The Pitch Black match
With LA Knight and
with
Bray Wyatt.
LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. Now, first off, before we even get into this, I thought the way they marketed this was kind of funny. They kept saying this is going to be the first ever Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. And I'm like, why the hell are you calling it the first ever Pitch Black match? This is going to be the only Pitch Black match. It's like they didn't market the zombie lumberjack matches. This is the first zombie lumberjack match.
I think because the zombie lumberjack match was something that was last minute.
I'll be completely honest. I do not understand the hate for that match. It is comedy.
It's comedy gold. I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny. But this was an interesting little gimmick match. So it's done in black light where everything's lit up.
A more apt term for the match, if they were to continue doing this, would be like a black light match.
Yeah.
Which I don't see why they would continue doing it, but if they did, that would be because the best part about this was the Bray Wyatt had that what was it, like black light makeup or something on, which was super cool.
It was really cool, and then of course after he won, and he goes into the corner, he comes out and he's got a mask on, and he's red on his face. He looked like a demon or something, and it was like, and it drags LA Knight all the way up to the.
Up to the ramp, and then they had Uncle Howdy, who jumped off.
It looked like he did a coffin drop, which was
that's what I was thinking. It's like he was standing up on top of some scaffold, and then did like a coffin drop onto LA Knight. Which, interestingly enough, because of that whole spot, people are now speculating Uncle Howdy's got to be Shane McMahon, because as we know, Shane McMahon is known to do crazy stunts like that.
No, I don't think
it still would just make sense for it to be Bo Dallas.
Yeah, I don't think it's Shane McMahon. I think they're gonna. I mean, the idea that it would be Shane just doesn't.
I want to
doesn't read right to
note something interesting, that in the age of where everything is getting leaked out beforehand, and without knowledge of the company, it's still amazing how nobody knows who Uncle Howdy is. So I just love how that is still such a secret, even though most days it's like somebody appears and we automatically would know who it is because somebody's posted about it on social media.
If he's going to do something like a coffin drop, the first person you think of is Darby Allin. But then Darby
Allin's with AEW.
And he's like 180 pounds, and so there's no way that he can be Uncle Howdy, because Uncle Howdy looks like he's about 250. I mean, he looks like he's pretty I won't say massive, but he's got bulk. Then, of course, after the match, we see the Firefly Funhouse gang.
That was
creepy. That was creepy, and it just added more and more to the premonition, the
character.
Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt Six, and who was Uncle Howdy, and who are the rest of these guys. I'm sorry, I still believe that the Buzzard, Mercy the Buzzard, is Curtis Axel. I still think it's Curtis Axel.
That would be a good one, because, again, if Uncle Howdy was Bray Wyatt, then you'd have a B-team reunion, I guess.
Bo Dallas?
Yeah, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel.
Yeah. I think it'd be pretty cool. Then the next match we got.
The next match after the Pitch Black was.
It was a women's match.
Yeah, it was the Raw Women's title match. Bianca Belair retained against Alexa Bliss.
I'm sorry. Can I just say I really wanted another 3 minutes of this match?
Yeah, it was a little short, especially for a title match. It only lasted about 7 or so minutes.
Right.
And for one of your big titles, it doesn't make sense. But then again, they also have to do 2 whole Royal Rumbles, so that's 2+ hours all by itself. So of course they're already going to be strapped for time. But again, I agree. It should have been.
Would have loved another 3 minutes, because you have 2 of your big women,
2 of your top women's wrestlers who are capable of putting on a show-stopping,
a really good show,
15 or so minute match.
And then of course at the end of the match we got Uncle Howdy coming and talking Alexa Bliss, and it's like, okay, where is this going? Again, there's more and more of this that is like this is like
It's slowly unraveling.
slowly unraveling, and it still brings up a lot of the Fiend elements into it. And of course, like I said earlier, Bray Wyatt has, after the Pitch Black match, he has pretty much said that the Fiend is done. We're not bringing him back. And I was like, oh really? I don't know how. I don't really. I believe that just a little bit. I think they're going to keep that in the back pocket, just like.
Well, it's probably going to be like they're going to do something like how they do it with the Demon
Yeah.
for Finn Balor, where it's going to be like, oh, they're going to set up a really intense storyline between Bray Wyatt and such, and then it's like, oh, WrestleMania, here comes Bray Wyatt, now comes the Fiend, you know. Then it's going to be like, shit's going to go down, you know.
But
So I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're completely done with the
I
Fiend.
don't think they're
It's
completely
been
done with the Fiend
such a,
either.
it's been too much of a popular character
Yep.
to just toss in the bin like that. You know?
like I said, they're probably just going to keep it in their back pocket and probably use it sparingly. So like, oh my gosh, it's Bray Wyatt. It's the Fiend. He's coming. It's kind of like what the Three Faces of Foley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just it all kind of works. And then what was the next match was?
Oh, my phone keeps turning off when I.
I think it was the Women's Rumble.
Yes, next match was the Women's Rumble, as we said. Rhea Ripley won the match.
She was she was part of 3 women that were left, which was Liv Morgan, who was number 2, and Asuka, I think, came in somewhere maybe midway through the match, and she had introduced her new character, I think Kana.
So, regarding like returns and stuff like that, I believe this was definitely the superior Rumble.
Yeah.
As far as wrestling, I'd still give it to the men's, but this one you had a couple big returns, like
Chelsea Green,
Tegan who
Knox,
was promptly eliminated.
Tegan Knox.
Also, Natalia apparently had been out for a while and had made her return. But the most interesting return in this entire match, it was a legend appearance. It was kind of odd because it's like all of a sudden you hear, "You're not enough for me," and it's okay. Everybody knows, okay, it's Michelle McCool. But we had seen her out in the crowds. But so I don't know if something happened with like Beth Phoenix didn't want to be in the match, because we saw Beth Phoenix earlier in the night during the men's Rumble match. So when you see Beth Phoenix, it's like, okay, she's going to be an entrant in the Rumble.
Right.
But then it ended up being Michelle McCool, so I don't know if Beth backed out or what. And so then Michelle just hopped the barricade, entered the match, lasted about like, I don't know, 10 or so minutes.
10, 15 minutes. She did pretty good. She was pretty good. And I mean, it was interesting because you were asking me, well, how is this possible? I said, and apparently during the Royal Rumble, they always have extra wrestlers in the back.
As part of like a contingency plan.
A contingency plan in case something happens where a certain wrestler can't go, and so they've got extra wrestlers in the back that will make an appearance. And I want to pretty much say that I think what happened was Michelle McCool was probably part of that contingency plan. But rather than just sit in the back for the entire night, she was, I'm going to go sit out in the front row and watch the show.
And
she was sitting next to her kids when this happened, so she was probably like, I'm going to, if I'm not going to be in the Rumble, I'm going to go sit out in the front row with my kids and watch it from there, and it'll be great. And then all of a sudden her music, and you could see it on her face, her music popped, and she's like, and she looked up like, oh, and so
I'm in the match,
and she basically just took off her jacket, her sweatshirt jacket, her hoodie, I guess, whatever it is, and took it off, and she was like ready to go. She's like, it wasn't necessarily wrestling gear.
Yeah, it wasn't her like typical wrestling gear,
but she had like she had boots on. She was able to. She moved pretty well for what she was wearing, and she went in there and just and started hauling ass. And what was funny was she got out. She came in from the front row, stands on the barricade, it was like just one of these, hops down, and then just slides right in and starts beating on people. And it was like, it was impressive. It was like, it was just one of those moments where like, even Cole was like, Michelle McCool, she's like sitting in the front row behind us.
And regarding returns, one interesting thing they did not do was I think since the Women's Rumble began,
Yeah.
what was it, 2018, I believe, first year they did it. I think Molly Holly has always
Always
been
been, yep.
an entrant in the match, but she was not
She
in
was
it
not
this
there
year.
this year. Other notable women that weren't there, Naomi wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
We thought for sure she would. Apparently, we thought for sure she had made amends with.
Yeah,
WWE.
that's
She
what
wasn't there.
a lot of people were. Again,
Anticipated.
spoiling this, if you haven't seen the Rumble, Nia Jax had returned at number 30, which a lot of people were upset about because Nia Jax has a reputation of not being the best of wrestlers.
Yeah, she's not
being
very
quite
safe.
dangerous.
We were,
and also because it wasn't Naomi, because she was one of the most anticipated returns, and when
Yeah.
it's not Naomi coming in at 30,
I mean,
whoever it is going to be booed, you know.
But what was interesting was Nia Jax kind of got. First of all, her music popped 10 seconds before she was supposed to go out, which I thought was weird. And then,
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were talking about. Saying, joking, Nia Jax is so bad she even botched her entrance.
But the interesting thing was that she kind of got a mixed pop because people were oh yeah like, hey wait a minute she's 30 oh boo
Yeah. So it's like I guess a lot of the crowd was happy to see Nia back, just
yeah.
not in the position she returned at.
We kind of were like sitting there like hoping that let's hope that she's like improved on her skills.
And we
since
didn't
she's
get
been
to
gone.
see a whole
And
lot
we really
in the
didn't.
match, but again, we'll just have to see if she's gotten better or if
Yeah,
she's still the same old
still
Nia.
the same old Nia. She looks like she's dropped some weight. Not saying that's bad or good. I'm just saying it looks like she's gotten in better
Just
shape.
an observation.
She's gotten in better shape, and she's probably been just preparing to make a return to come back. Of course, immediately she gets within 5 minutes she gets dumped outside, and we got to see Piper Niven have her actual name. She didn't come on as Dewdrop.
Thank God.
Thank God. Got to see Roxanne Perez, who is the NXT Women's Champion. There was no Ronda Rousey. And then
Interesting that
Shayna Baszler came out at number 5, which I was kind of surprised.
another interesting thing they did was they had a whole mini storyline in the match with Damage Control.
Oh,
where
yeah.
They had Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Bailey all in the match, and they were just eliminating people
left
teaming
and
up.
right. The Becky Lynch came out and they start beating on her. And she starts beating on them, and they were all eliminated within minutes. As soon as one went over, the other one went over, and then it was kind of cool to just kind of see that they're going to build up that rivalry between Becky Lynch and Bailey because this ought to be really good. I think they're going to set that up for WrestleMania. It ought to be really, really good. But again, they pretty much the men pretty much stuck to the roster. The women were like.
You had a nice mix of their roster
Xia Li,
and then NXT appearances and a couple returns and legends.
It was nice to see some of these women out there wrestling against. I have no problem with Rhea Ripley winning. Of course, she immediately says, "I want Charlotte Flair." Which
I'm perfectly fine with. That's bound to be a great match.
I think that'll be a fabulous match. And of course, we're going to see the two of them jaw jack each other. In the next few months to just kind of prep
build up their storyline,
pump up this match. But this is, and again, they've wrestled before, and I think Charlotte beat Rhea last time to win the title. So this ought to be interesting. We should really, really look forward to these matches coming up to WrestleMania in a few months.
And after the Women's Rumble, we had the main event.
Yay!
It was the Universal Championship match.
Universal WWE Heavyweight Champion.
Roman Reigns retained against Kevin Owens.
Owens.
Match itself was, of course, fantastic. You got two of, I'd say, the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously put on a great show, but what everybody's talking about is the post-match angle.
Yes. This was good.
Which is all-time great stuff.
Great storyline.
So after the match, it was like a bloodline beatdown of
Kevin Owens.
And of course, you got Sammy, who's got strong ties to Kevin Owens. They've been side by side pretty much their entire
They've been friends,
careers.
they've been enemies.
But you've also got Sammy, who's been in the bloodline for months, and he's
trying to really
he's
show
one of them. He's Sammy Uso.
Yeah.
And so then they're all like, Sammy, you gotta be one of us. You gotta beat up Kevin Owens. But Sammy's like, nah, I can't do it. I can't.
I mean, the
my
whole,
best friend.
The whole setup is that not only did they beat down Kevin Owens, they handcuffed him to the ropes, and so they were just having free for all, just shot after shot after shot, and Roman was going to hit him with a chair, and Sammy's like, no, you don't need this. This is beneath you. You don't need to do this.
And then he was like, you do it.
You would do it, and it's like,
and it was interesting the way they set this up, the chair shot, because as we all know, it strongly mirrored that of the Shield back in 2014.
It did.
The whole Roman looking off, and then you have Seth Rollins, now Sami Zayn, coming up from the side, hitting him in the back.
Yeah.
Great callback.
Great build up.
It was so dramatic.
Well,
it was
really
incredible
well done.
how they did it.
I mean, I think,
which has left us wondering because, of course, Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble. He's got a match against Roman at WrestleMania. But you can't not do anything with this.
Well,
this is like the hottest of hot storyline right now. You can't just not build this up to a championship.
Here's the interesting thing, because one of our viewers left us a comment on our predictions, on our prediction show or prediction segment, and basically said that he believes Sammy and Kevin will beat the Usos for the tag champs, the tag titles. Now, I can now see that kind of happening. It's kind of interesting because also part of that post match was, as soon as Sammy, hit Roman with the chair, Jay Uso, who has been sticking up for him the last, several weeks, I think since Survivor Series, has basically say, why, we're brothers, and of course, Jimmy kicks him in the face, and then Solo gives him the thumb, and they start beating down on him, and they tell Jay, it's your turn, you need to do it, and Jay
he walked out.
And he walked out, and it's like, oh my gosh, this, we kind of sat there, we were like, is this the end of the Usos?
The end of the bloodline, the end of the Usos.
Yeah. And I think even after the on that previous or on that following SmackDown, Sami Zayn came up to Jay outside the arena and said, "Hey, I want to thank you for sticking up for me. I'm sorry about what happened." And it's like, and that's all. It was basically, it's like, I mean, this was kind of a thing where it's like, where does Sammy's loyalties lie? Do they lie with the bloodline? And it was interesting because I knew kind of weeks ago when Roman freaked out and basically just got in Sammy's face and said, "Do you want to be the head of the table? Do you want to be the head of the table? You want to be the tribal chief? Do you want to be the tribal?" Sammy's like, "What the fuck? Get back, get away!" And you kind of like saw, okay, this is gonna boil over. This is gonna come to something that's really, really gonna give us something really juicy at Royal Rumble. Of course, it did, and it basically just showed that Sammy was like, I'm loyal to the bloodline, but I couldn't do this.
But I'm also loyal to Kevin Owens.
But there was only so much. It was like, again, kick after kick after kick to Kevin Owens, and you're like, Jesus Christ. And it was, and Kevin Owens is just kind of like hanging there. And you're kind of like, give him the chair shot, and you're like, what? He's
obviously down now. He can't do any more.
He can't defend himself. So it was. I think they just showed that there was just only so much that Sami Zayn was going to sit there and accept as far as what he was going to do with this, and it's going to build into
probably Elimination Chamber or I think is one of the other pay-per-views they're going to have in between now and not Survivor Series, WrestleMania.
Yeah, I would like to see, Sammy in the Elimination Chamber match. I'd like to see what would happen there. It would probably set up for a a chance for him to face Roman for a title.
Mm-hmm.
They've been talking about for months splitting the title.
Like,
So,
I was
off of
wondering
Roman.
since if they're going to keep up this the 2-night WrestleManias, if
Right.
they were going to have Roman versus Sammy for the WWE Championship, and then Roman versus Cody for the Universal, or
Yeah.
if they were going to do something like that, or have a winner-take-all type deal
I
at
think
Mania.
there are so many options they could go with right now that I think would all be good for WWE. But again, from what one of our viewers said, the idea of Sammy and Kevin beating the Usos, especially now, for the titles, I think is maybe just about the right time. And I think this might happen at the Elimination Chamber also.
Yeah.
Because I think it's coming up in just a few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's later this month.
So right now, this is a great time for WWE because they've got the road to WrestleMania, or they like to say the roads to WrestleMania, and really be able to, because they need a big WrestleMania moment to really hit right about this time. So, well, anyway, we are like long on this segment, but we knew we would be. So,
Yeah.
and as I like to ask my partner over here, if they want to check us out anywhere else, where would they go?
If you want to find all the links to our social medias, you can find them at withkoji.com/@travelbynature. They can find links to our podcasts on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and we'll also have the links to our YouTube page, Travel by Nature, as well as our Instagram pages and our TikTok.
Yep. And if they want to help out the channel, what would they do?
You can hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share to your friends.
Yeah, share it out to your friends. Leave us a comment. Makes us smile. But from here at the I Will The Show Studios,
I'm Logan.
I'm Goose.
We are the Wrestling Boys. We will see you next week.
Or not.